Hello and welcome to the Songshare Wisdom System. I'm Owen and this is the fifth and final episode of the first season of this podcast. And you might be like, what? You're already ending the season? It's only been 5 episodes. Well, yeah, I am. These episodes take a lot of work to produce by myself, and I think I just need time to rest for a bit. But so far, I'm extremely proud of all the songs that we've made on this podcast. And I've gotten some requests to release these songs separately from the podcast, which I think is a great idea. So Aluminum Boy Records, the label that me and my dad recently started, we're going to release all of the songs from the first season as an album. And then I think we might do a short run of cassettes for it as well. For more info about Aluminum Boy, you can go to aluminumboyrecords.com. So if this is the final episode of the season, I thought I needed to do something special. I had to have on one of my closest friends, and who better than Bayden Fraley, bassist of Paddlefish, extremely kind person, and one hell of a musician/songwriter. I met Bayden on the first day of college at Columbia. Instantly, we bonded on Dinosaur Jr., and naturally, a few months later, I asked Bayden to join Paddlefish as a bass player, along with me on guitar and Missy on drums. We've been playing together and touring for the last couple of years, but up until this point, me and Bayden have never written a song together. I thought that this podcast would be a good medium to make that finally happen. So please enjoy this historic moment in me and Bayden's friendship. Let's jump right in.
So I think we started with this funky preset that was on my synthesizer, and we were both like, yeah, that sounds like a cool kind of percussive sound. Let's just record minutes and minutes of that.
From the get-go, we picked the strangest beat to play along to, but it was one of those things where we kind of just went with the first thing.
I think from there, because it was such a strange foundation, it sort of felt like we had more possibilities, because it wasn't a sound that I think either of us would use as our first choice for a foundation. It was just sort of like, all right, we're in uncharted territory right now. We don't really have anything confining us to a certain sound. Let's just be weird, have fun.
And that's pretty much what we did. We just had fun with it.
I was playing, and we weren't necessarily jamming, but it felt like it because I was just, playing the riff over and over, and you were sort of finding the right sound over at the board and just changing reverb. I think you put some delay on it a little bit, and then I was just kind of figuring out how do I want the release to sound, all of that. So I was kind of playing with the knobs on the synthesizer. You were playing with the knobs on the board, and yeah, we were just playing the same riff over and over, but still kind of jamming with one sound.
Since Bayden just laid out a synth lead right off the bat, it kind of served as a roadmap for the rest of the song. I love that we just went for it. No planning, just a totally improvised structure. Now it was probably time to start building up our foundation, so we thought it's time to add some electric bass.
I was just trying to come up with a riff or something, and you were like, oh wait, we should plug it into the MS-20, add some distortion that way instead of, like a pedal. And then I think you just kind of played with knobs while I tried to figure out something to add.
The bass part that Bayden wrote has this psychedelic garage rock feel. It's kind of like the 13th Floor Elevators or something. And this bass line defined the structure of the song a little bit more. But we still really didn't know what the song would sound like.
Yeah, I think at this point, we still didn't really know where this was going at all. And the melodic part of the song was really only that synthesizer. It sort of felt like, oh man, is this going to be a song or is this going to be a jam that was just kind of sloppily put together, or just a drone song, you know, like something that you'd hear in a club?
It was clear that we needed to add some sounds and instruments to make sense of what we were working with.
I think what we added next was the little doot boop boop doot doot doot. Yeah, we just kept adding more synthesizer parts, and I remember being like, when are we gonna move on to other parts? Not that I didn't love the synthesizer parts. I loved how many sounds we got out of that synthesizer because it is just so versatile that we were able to fit it in and not make it feel like forced.
While we were recording the little boop 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 part, Bayden also added this white noise sound onto the intro.
It reminds me of something you'd hear out of a radio, or when you're in a car and wind is going past you really, really fast. Like that kind of high pitch that you hear if you're really focusing in.
I was feeling pretty inspired by that little noisy bit, and I still hadn't played any instruments in the song yet, so I thought I would lay down some sort of noisy shoegazy guitar. I was also playing around with the reverse cymbal sample that I had from the last episode with Joe Torres. I pitched it down and just took like a 2-second clip from it, and it made this weird noise sample thing that we then layered on top of the guitar.
It was just you pressing a button on the sampler, but we were both jamming out like you were shredding on guitar.
It was just so exciting. It felt like the song was coming together. We had a chorus to our song, and now we could start thinking about vocals. But little did I know, while I was recording all the guitar, Bayden had already started working on some lyrics.
We had been talking all day, sort of in between tracking and eating chips or whatever. We've been talking a lot about politics, and specifically how you've just been getting really into anarchism, and just sort of about, I would say, the issues that we are sort of facing as a generation. Just this idea of kind of working until we die, and not even us specifically, but just people our age being really unhappy with the world that we're living in, sort of feeling trapped by the system. And then we'd also talked a lot about education. I think one of the lines I was trying to embody that with is like, we had said that, you know, there's so many people writing about the problems in the world, and so I was trying to like talk about that, saying like scholars have written the pauper's life, like they have talked about it, but they're the ones profiting from it. Like it's not necessarily helping people that are poor or middle class. It's helping academics, and like the middle class and upper class are learning about it. So I feel like it was mostly just about, you know, people wanting money, corporations not caring about people. Nothing new. Something that we've all sort of known about, whether we want to deny it or point it out.
The flag means nothing to Jackson's face if war is set off to Lord our grace. The country burning in flames of green, and now we're falling, and it is cheap. Others have written the pauper's life, watching and waiting for a glimpse of strife.
I got this weird distorted vocal sound going, and then we just pressed record, and Bayden nailed it in a couple takes. Also, we were both goofing around a lot while recording, you know, screaming, making strange noises, so we kept some of the artifacts and flubs and goofs and gaffs, and we stuck them right at the beginning, just for some flavor.
You just made what to me feels like a Monty Python type scream, like you're dying, you've just been stabbed, and you're just kind of groaning because you're I don't know. It's so funny though, but yeah, I think we called it our Spirit of the Beehive tribute.
Both me and Bayden have been obsessively listening to the new Spirit of the Beehive record called Entertainment Death. It has insanely wild and weird and quirky, but also very intricate production. I just love the songs and the melodies too, and they were definitely a pretty big influence on the whole track. So shout out to Spirit of the Beehive for the sick tunes. So that's where we ended the first recording session. We got a ton done. The only things we wanted to add were some drums, and also we were talking about transitioning suddenly into an orchestral string arrangement. Bayden told me about this MIDI string software that they found that I guess we can get for free through our school. So we were like, why not try it out? So Bayden would then compose the string arrangement and I would add some percussion. I can't play acoustic drums at my apartment, but I had some cool drum samples and I came up with this beat and I threw an analog delay on it. This was all after struggling for days trying to figure out a drum part that would cut through our dense arrangement but also fill up the song.
Yeah, that's the key to the song. That was the thing that pulled it all together. Small and kind of, you're not going to notice it right away, but without it, the song feels very mushy.
True, but I would say the more noticeable thing that brought everything together was the string section that Bayden brought in.
You know, I've played in orchestra when I was in elementary, middle school, high school, and I really miss orchestra now that I'm not in it anymore. I really wish I could just go play one more concert, but I was just trying to focus more on like a pop kind of sound out of an orchestra rather than a classical sound, because I thought that would probably fit the song that we already had a little bit better. And so I was trying to use the motifs from the other part of the song, but not have it sound exactly the same, because then what's the point of doing this other section? So I wanted to use what was existing already and then modify it so that it felt conclusive.
I would say it definitely felt conclusive. When we added it, it just suddenly felt done. So we just went ahead and started mixing. It was definitely a challenge at first because of the arrangements that we chose, but I think we got everything in a cool spot with cool sounds. So now I present to you the song that me and Bayden made, titled Without Reward.
Jackson's face. If war is set off, to Lord our grace. The country burning in flames of green. author's life, watching and waiting for a glimpse of strife. The gimmicks noticed and still ignored, each body aching without reward. Without reward.
That was Without Reward. I had a blast recording this with Bayden, and I knew that it would come easy because we already had a lot of experience improvising together, but I'm still just in awe of what we were able to make. We kind of just put both of our brains together and went for it, and this was also just a really helpful experience because me and Bayden are going to be working on their EP this summer, so it's kind of like a test run. But anyway, Bayden has some demos on their Bandcamp, and that is baydenfraley.bandcamp.com, BAYDENFRALEY. You should definitely check those out and stay tuned for the EP that we're going to make. Also go check out the new Paddlefish record that me and Bayden made along with Missy and Matt DeWine. It's called Flyer. It's on all the streaming services, but you can also go check it out at paddlefish.bandcamp.com. As I said in the beginning, this is the final episode of the season. It's just been such a pleasure to collaborate with all these different people. I feel like I learned an unbelievable amount of things throughout this whole process, and I just really got this sense of how the creative mind works and how every creative mind is different. But anyway, I had fun, and I hope you listeners out there had fun too. I will be back soon, but in the meantime, you can find me on Instagram at own.ey. This podcast is released with Aluminum Boy Records. You can find us at aluminumboyrecords.com. This is the Songshare Wisdom System. I'm Owen Masterevich. Thank you for listening.